He thought his badge made him untouchable. He smirked as he locked up an innocent black teen, thinking no one would question him. But when the courtroom footage played, his world collapsed. The judge leaned forward. The jury gasped. The smirk disappeared. What did that video reveal? And if you were in the judge's seat, what would you have done? Before we get into this unforgettable story, make sure you are subscribed to Epic Story Moments. Do not forget to hit that bell so you never miss another amazing tale. If you enjoy the story, like, share, and leave a comment. It helps us bring more powerful stories your way. And we would love to know, where are you watching from? Let us stay connected. Jamal Carter was just 16 years old, a quiet, well-mannered kid who stayed out of trouble. He lived with his mother and younger sister in a small neighborhood where everybody knew each other. That evening, he had been at his best friend's house, helping with a school project. It was getting late, and his mother had texted him to come home. So, he took his usual route, a familiar path he had walked 100 times before. The street was mostly empty, the glow of streetlights casting long shadows on the pavement. Jamal had his hands in his pockets, his backpack slung over one shoulder, moving at a steady pace. His mind was on the assignment he had just finished. He was thinking about how he would explain the math problems to his sister when he got home. But all of that was about to be forgotten. The low hum of an approaching engine made him glance to the side. A police car rolled up next to him, its tires crunching against the pavement. The flashing red and blue lights flickered on, bathing the entire street in their glow. "Hey, you! Stop right there." The voice was sharp, commanding. Jamal's chest tightened as he turned to face the officer stepping out of the vehicle. Sergeant Daniel Crowley, a man with years of experience on the force, and a reputation that people in the neighborhood whispered about. Jamal stopped in his tracks, his heart picking up speed. He had seen videos of situations like this before, stories that never ended well. His mother always told him what to do if he was ever stopped by the police. Stay calm, be polite, do not make any sudden movements. "Is there a problem, officer?" Jamal asked, his voice steady but cautious. Crowley eyed him up and down, his expression unreadable. "What are you doing out here?" Jamal hesitated for a second, confused by the question. "I am just walking home. I live a few blocks away." Crowley took a step closer, his hand resting near his belt. "You fit the description of someone we are looking for. Got any ID on you?" Jamal nodded quickly, not wanting to escalate the situation. He reached into his pocket, moving slowly so there would be no misunderstanding. But before he could even pull his wallet out, Crowley's voice boomed. "Hands where I can see them." Jamal froze. His hands were still halfway in his pockets, fingers grazing his wallet. His breath caught in his throat. "I said hands up," Crowley barked, his voice now dripping with hostility. Jamal lifted his hands slowly, confused and scared. "I was just—" "Turn around," Crowley ordered. Jamal did not even get a chance to ask why. Before he knew it, strong hands grabbed his wrists and forced him behind his back. The cold steel of the handcuffs snapped around them. Click. That sound sent a jolt of panic through him. "I did not do anything," Jamal protested, his voice breaking slightly. Crowley just smirked, that smug, satisfied grin like he had just won some kind of game. "You can explain that downtown," the officer said, tightening the cuffs a little more than necessary. Jamal winced but did not fight back. He knew better. He had seen what happened when people resisted, even when they were innocent. Across the street, a woman had been watching everything. She had seen how the officer approached Jamal without cause, how the teenager had complied, and how Crowley's demeanor had shifted the moment Jamal reached for his wallet. She did not think twice. She pulled out her phone and hit record. The video captured everything. The way Crowley shoved Jamal forward, the way he smirked as he led the teenager to his patrol car. It captured the way Jamal kept asking what he had done wrong, only to be met with silence. The woman had seen enough. She uploaded the footage to social media with the caption, asterisk, another black kid arrested for nothing. Watch closely, asterisk. But what this officer did not know is that the truth was about to come out. The video spread like wildfire. Within hours, it was everywhere: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, even the local news. The caption said it all. Asterisk, another black kid arrested for nothing. Watch closely. Asterisk, people did watch. Over and over again. Every second of that footage, every moment of injustice burned into their minds. The way Jamal had complied, the way he had not resisted, the way Sergeant Crowley had smirked as if he had already decided Jamal's fate before even asking a single question. Anger turned into action. By the next morning, the streets in front of the police station were filled with protesters. They carried signs that read asterisk, justice for Jamal, asterisk, and asterisk, enough is enough. Asterisk, their voices rang out loud and clear. Asterisk, say his name. Asterisk, asterisk, Jamal Carter. Asterisk, news crews arrived, capturing every chant, every tear, every determined face in the crowd. Reporters stood in front of cameras, their voices steady but urgent. Asterisk, a 16-year-old boy was arrested last night under questionable circumstances. The video circulating online suggests excessive force and possible racial profiling. The community is demanding answers. Asterisk, but answers were not coming. Not from the police department, at least. Instead, a spokesperson stood behind a podium, reading a carefully crafted statement. Asterisk, the department is aware of the video and is conducting an internal review. At this time, we have no further comment. Asterisk, no apology, no acknowledgement, just silence. Jamal's mother, Latoya Carter, was watching that press conference from her living room, her hands clenched into fists. She had not slept. She had spent the entire night making calls, trying to get her son out of that holding cell. When she finally got to see him, Jamal looked exhausted. His eyes were red, his shoulders slumped. But what broke her heart the most was the way he tried to reassure her. Asterisk, I'm okay, Mama. Do not cry. Asterisk, but she did cry. And when she sat down for an interview later that day, she made sure the world knew exactly how she felt. Asterisk, my son is a good boy. He was walking home. That is all. And that man. Asterisk, she took a shaky breath, trying to hold back her anger. Asterisk, that man treated him like a criminal for no reason. If that woman had not recorded it, who would have believed us? How many other boys has this happened to? Asterisk, the interview aired on national television. People across the country saw her pain, heard her words, and felt her fury. Celebrities began speaking out. Athletes wore shirts that read asterisk, justice for Jamal. Asterisk, activists demanded Crowley's badge. Then, something unexpected happened. An anonymous tip came in. Someone claiming to be a former officer from the same department sent a message to a journalist. It read, asterisk, Crowley has done this before, multiple times, but nobody ever had proof. Asterisk, that one message changed everything. Reporters began digging. People started sharing their own encounters. And what they found was shocking. Crowley had a history. Complaints of racial profiling, excessive force, misconduct. But somehow, he had always walked away without consequences. Not this time. The pressure was too high. The protests were too loud. The truth was too clear. A week after Jamal's arrest, the police department announced that Sergeant Crowley was being placed on administrative leave. It was not enough. The people wanted more. They wanted an indictment. They wanted justice. And they were about to get it. Because inside the courtroom, Something was about to happen that no one saw coming. The tension inside the courtroom was suffocating. Every seat was filled. Reporters sat in the back, their cameras ready. Community members who had protested outside now sat silently, their eyes locked on the front of the room. Jamal's mother, LaToya Carter, sat gripping her son's hand, her fingers trembling. At the defendant's table, Sergeant Daniel Crowley sat stiffly in his chair, his face unreadable. His attorney had told him to remain calm, to show no emotion. But deep inside, he felt it. Something was wrong. Something was about to go terribly wrong for him. Jamal's lawyer stood up and took a deep breath. "Your Honor, we would like to present crucial video evidence that will prove beyond any doubt what really happened that night." The judge, a stern-faced woman with piercing eyes, gave a small nod. "Proceed." A large screen at the front of the courtroom flickered to life. The lights dimmed slightly, and then the footage began to play. At first, there was silence. The courtroom watched as the scene unfolded. The police car pulling up, Crowley stepping out, his hand already near his belt. Then came his voice, sharp and authoritative. "Hey, you! Stop right there." The video was crystal clear. The woman who had filmed it had held her phone steady, capturing every moment. The jury leaned forward, watching as Jamal responded calmly. "Is there a problem, officer?" Crowley's expression on screen was cold, calculating. The room was silent except for the recording. The smirk appeared as he slapped the handcuffs on. Then something happened, something no one was expecting. The video kept playing. Crowley shifted in his chair, suddenly uneasy. His lawyer frowned, not recognizing this part of the footage. Because this was not just one clip. This was a compilation. The video on the screen cut to another arrest. Another young black man, this time 3 months earlier. The same officer, the same smirk. The courtroom collectively inhaled. Then another clip, and another, for different arrests, for different young black men. Every single time, Crowley used the same tactic. Stop them without cause, escalate the situation, slap the cuffs on, smirk like he had won. A woman in the gallery covered her mouth in shock. The jury exchanged glances. Even the judge sat a little straighter in her chair. Crowley's face turned pale. His hands clenched into fists. His lawyer whispered something urgently in his ear, but he was frozen. The video continued. This time, the footage was from a body camera, not a civilian recording, a leak from inside the department. Someone had exposed him. "He fits the description," Crowley's own voice said on the recording. "What description?" another officer asked. "Young, black, hoodie. That is all I need." The room erupted. Gasps, murmurs. Someone in the back muttered, "Oh my God." The judge banged the gavel. Order in the court. But the damage was done. The jury was not just watching a case about one wrongful arrest anymore. They were seeing a pattern, a calculated, deliberate abuse of power. Crowley finally moved, shaking his head. He whispered to his lawyer, his lips tight. His arrogance had disappeared. Jamal sat still, watching everything unfold. He had spent a night in a jail cell for no reason. He had been treated like a criminal. But now, sitting here in this moment, he saw something he had not seen before. Fear, not in himself. In Crowley, the officer's world was crumbling in real time. And then came the final blow. "Your Honor," Jamal's lawyer said, standing up once more, "we have just received new information. The officer who leaked this body cam footage has also provided official complaints filed against Sergeant Crowley. Complaints that were buried until now." Crowley's lawyer jumped up. "Objection. Overruled." The judge snapped. The courtroom doors swung open. A court officer walked in, holding a thick folder. They handed it to the judge. She opened it and scanned the pages. Her jaw tightened. Then she looked up. Her voice was steady, but her eyes burned with something else. "Sergeant Crowley, stand up." He hesitated. Now, slowly, he rose to his feet. His face was stiff, but his fingers twitched at his sides. The courtroom was silent, waiting. The judge turned to the jury. "Ladies and gentlemen, I believe we have seen enough. Hashtag the verdict and aftermath. Full narrative, 8,000 characters." The courtroom was silent. The weight of everything that had just been revealed hung heavy in the air. The jury had seen the videos. They had heard Crowley's own words. They had watched his expression shift from arrogance to panic as his past came back to haunt him. Now, they were ready to decide his fate. The judge turned to the jury box. Asterisk, has the jury reached a verdict? Asterisk, a woman in the front row, the foreperson, stood up. Her hands clutched a small slip of paper. Her voice was steady, but her expression was firm. Asterisk, we have, Your Honor. Asterisk, Jamal sat still, barely breathing. His mother clutched his hand so tightly he could feel her pulse through her fingers. Across the room, Crowley stood frozen, his face pale, his lawyer stiff beside him. The foreperson cleared her throat. Asterisk, on the charge of false arrest, we find the defendant guilty. Asterisk, a murmur rippled through the room. Crowley's jaw tightened. His hands gripped the table in front of him. Asterisk, on the charge of misconduct, guilty. Asterisk, a louder reaction this time. Reporters scribbled furiously in their notepads. The prosecution remained stone-faced, but there was a glimmer of relief in their eyes. The foreperson inhaled deeply before reading the final charge. Asterisk, on the charge of racial profiling and abuse of power, guilty. Asterisk, the courtroom exploded. Gasps, cheers, even a few people sobbing in relief. Jamal's mother covered her face with her hands, her shoulders shaking. Jamal felt his heart pounding in his chest. The judge banged her gavel. Asterisk, order. I will have order in this court. Asterisk, the noise settled, but the energy in the room was electric. Crowley was no longer a respected officer. He was a convicted criminal. The judge turned her gaze toward him. Asterisk, Sergeant Crowley, this court finds you guilty of violating the public trust. Your actions were not only unlawful, but also morally reprehensible. The abuse of power, the manipulation of authority. It stops here. Asterisk, Crowley said nothing. His smirk was long gone. His shoulders slumped slightly, but his fists remained clenched. Asterisk, you are hereby stripped of your badge and sentenced to 5 years in federal prison, effective immediately. Asterisk, the sound of metal clicking filled the courtroom as a bailiff approached Crowley and pulled his hands behind his back. The same cold steel handcuffs he had once slapped onto Jamal's wrists were now locked around his own. Click. That sound sent a different kind of jolt through the room. A poetic justice. Crowley was led away, his face blank. No more power. No more smirk. Just another prisoner walking toward his fate. Outside the courthouse, the crowd erupted into cheers. People hugged. Strangers clapped, and chants of asterisk justice for Jamal. Asterisk filled the air. When Jamal and his mother finally stepped outside, the cameras swarmed them. A reporter leaned forward. Asterisk, Jamal, how do you feel right now? Asterisk, he took a deep breath. His voice was steady, but his words carried weight. Asterisk, I feel relieved. But this is not just about me. This is about every person who has ever been treated like they were guilty just for existing. Today we won, but how many others have not? Asterisk, his words went viral within hours. The video of Crowley's sentencing was shared millions of times. People across the country demanded change, and change did come. New policies were put in place, requiring officers to wear body cameras at all times, with severe consequences for those who turned them off. The department was forced to reopen past cases linked to Crowley, uncovering even more instances of racial profiling that had gone unpunished. Jamal's family filed a lawsuit against the city. They won. The settlement ensured that Jamal's future was secure, his education, his career, his life. But for him, this was about more than money. It was about making sure no one else went through what he had. As the weeks passed, something incredible happened. Inspired by Jamal's case, people began sharing their own stories. More videos surfaced. More officers were held accountable. And yet, the question remained. One video changed everything. But how many more stories like this go unseen? The fight was not over. But this was a start.